You made a model by following every minute detail, but you set up your environment with one HDRI or a 3-point lighting setup. It can get the job done, but you can get the visual clarity and depth that an environment with true geometry will give you. In our subconscious mind, we try to capture as much detail as we can. When the hero object interacts with the environment, it feeds the information to our brain that our hero object is a part of the environment. And our brain is not going to struggle to believe that this object fits properly with the environment or not. I am Bose, and in this video I will show you how to take your render capabilities to next level and how not to be afraid using Unreal Engine 5. Stay with me. As a 3D artist, time is the most valuable thing in my life. That's why I always try to maintain time by adding different softwares to my pipeline to make it work smoother and faster. But the workflow speed drops to below 30% when it comes to rendering process. Cycles is a path tracing engine, so it ensures physical accuracy in your renders. But it takes a huge amount of time to render a single frame in your environment with millions of polygons. And you have to leave your PC for a few days. That is where the Unreal Engine comes in. Epic Games develop their own technologies like Lumen, which provides real-time global illumination, Nanite, which calculates millions of polygons without compromising that much frame rate, and real-time hardware ray tracing. You can quickly visualize the entire scene and obtain the rendered image that you see in the viewport. But every good thing has its own downside. You need a decent PC setup with the RTX GPU. If you have used Unreal before, you know it's pretty complex to know all the settings or parameters. So I'm going to show you only those you need to achieve visual fidelity in your renders. Sometimes we get lost in project settings or we don't know which settings we need to check to enable ray tracing. So you have to check the ray tracing box before opening the project. After opening the project, go to project settings and search for ray tracing. Check if use hardware ray tracing when available is enabled. And check ray trace shadows under hardware ray tracing. Here you can see how these things affect your scene. Now we can import our models into Unreal. Click import and find the mesh you want to import. A pop-up menu is going to open. Leave everything as default. Select every mesh at once and drag and drop it into the viewport. Make different folder for materials and drag and drop those materials into that folder. If we want to move entire object at once, we need to merge all objects together. Select every object from the outliner, go to Tools and then Merge Actors. Click Replace Source Actor and then click Merge Actors. Select the destination and save. It works like joining every object in Blender. Unreal uses the PBR texturing workflow, so you also have to import your PBR textures. From here, it's like using Blender. Open the material which you want to add textures, drag and drop your textures into the material panel and connect those to the main shader and click the Apply button. If your roughness seems incorrect, you can add a multiply node by holding M and right-clicking. Connect roughness to A and by holding 1 and right-clicking, which adds a constant, set the value to a higher number like 3 and reapply the material. Using third-party assets is a great choice. You can find assets in Unreal Marketplace. After Dynamic Sky, Easy Fog, Fluid Flux are great assets in my personal preference. In this project, I'm not going to create the entire environment from scratch. Rather than, I'm going to use the Rural Australia pack. With this, they provide 3 maps and I like the first one. Append the pack to your project, then open the project panel. Search maps and set the editor startup map as Rural Australia Example 1 and restart the engine. Keep your patience because it will take a long time to open. I mean a long time. After opening, it will take a long time to compile all the shaders, but only once. After compiling is done, find a sweet spot where you can drag and drop the mesh and rotate it to your liking. If you have this black shading issue that occurs after compiling, you could try the console command r.raytracing.normalbias and set the value to 10. For animation or rendering out an image, we need to use sequencer to set up the render. From here you can add a new level sequence and after that click the sequencer. You have to add a cine camera actor to your scene and choose a camera angle and position to your liking. Now drag and drop the camera to the sequencer and keyframe the position like you do it in Blender. I used a camera rail to create a moving forward animation. I kinda tried to art direct to showcase the ray trace reflections. You can use these buttons to toggle the viewport and camera view. Before producing the animated frames, we need to enable a plugin named Movie Render Queue. Enable it and restart. After reopening the project, select the sequencer to render in Render Queue. I prefer to render it as an PNG sequence and add anti-aliasing. The value of 16 in both works fine for me, and check override. Set the output directory, resolution and frame rate. Set this as a new preset so you can use it later, and hit apply. Now click on the render local button to start rendering. It's a pretty heavy scene. It took 4 hours to render 480 frames in my RTX 3050. After converting those images to MP4, I imported them into my favorite video editing software, Photoshop. I know, it's a photo editor. Why do I do that when we have DaVinci Resolve and Premiere Pro? I use Photoshop to use camera raw filters, texture and clarity sliders. At last, basic color correction and aesthetic design in Premiere Pro, the final render is ready. Unreal is a pretty complex piece of software to understand if you are coming from Blender. You need to do a lot of technical troubleshooting to get a proper render. But there are some things this engine offers you that are top of the line. The visual fidelity, depth, Lumen with real-time ray tracing are just insane. I know only one thing, all of my efforts are going to reflect in my final render. That's why I shifted into Unreal. I'm Boss and I will catch up with you on the next one.